very much. Before opening the discussion about strengthening democratic institutions in the information society politics of e-Parliament, I have a few remarks. First of all, I would like to thank Mrs. Mungella for directing with me the Congress of Egypt, which built the new African Pan-African network. Her contribution helps us to find our decision. My remarks is and maybe questions. I put questions to all the society who are represented here. Do we need to put some standards to avoid misuse of our technology? Do we need to make a code of conduct between participants of our network? Third, our e-Parliament not to make a unified parliament or a world parliament, but to make a dialogue and help the parliaments and respect diversity of political systems at the same time. Fourth, information is not sufficient. Parliaments must create centers of research? In the Egyptian Parliament, we created a center of parliamentary research. So not information to gather only, but to build on them research. Fifth, information without knowing the geographic political environment of this information will be nonsense. So we have to know the geopolitical environment of each information. Also, e-Parliament could make conferences and round tables, and we don't need transportations or meet together. By technology, we could make conferences and round tables and find resolutions. The European Parliament, as an example, sometimes take resolutions without even asking other parliaments about information. So this dialogue could happen through the e-Parliament, through the network. These points have to be discussed, and we have to find a resolution concerning these points. Now, if you want to direct your question to one person in particular, please indicate this. The discussions are opened. And here also, please.
I press the red button. Is that audible?
Yes.
Is that audible?
No, you have to.
The red button is shining. No, is it audible?
Yeah, it's fine.
Could my name is Tim Renton. I have been in the Westminster Parliament for over 30 years, 23 years in the lower house, the Commons, 10 years now in our upper house, still called the House of Lords, which may seem a little out of date, but it's still a very good place to be. We started a department of information and communication technology with the lower house, both of us, 3 years ago, and I'm delighted that the director, Joan Miller, is sitting on my left and is going to talk tomorrow. Now, I have a question that I would really like, please, to devote quickly to all the members. Sitting here as someone who's been to an incredibly large number of political conferences, the first one that I've ever been to on the subject of the Internet, is there not a danger that you are all seeing members of Parliament as delegates rather than simply as representatives? I was very much brought up on the theme that I could listen to all my constituents and with the knowledge that is now available through the internet, doubtless they would be much better informed. But at the end of the day, it was I, as a Member of Parliament, that had to take the decision. And I couldn't pass the buck by saying, but that's what my constituents told me to do, because it is my responsibility as the Member of Parliament. And surely, in this I would very much agree with what Pablo Alvarez said, that you mustn't be pushed along by technology. Isn't there a danger that in relation to the independence of representative members of Parliament, some of us here might be in danger of pushing technology too far?
Thank you very much. Please, could I ask each participant to pose his question in 2 minutes or his remarks in 2 minutes? Who is the following one? Yes? Your name, please, and your country.
Gracias. Muchas gracias por la oportunidad. Guillermo Castillo, un asesor externo para un programa de congreso que estamos iniciando con la Organización de Estados Americanos. Más que una pregunta específica, es un comentario o varios comentarios y un poco de challenge, de ver qué podemos hacer para el futuro. Me encantaría empezar por felicitar a los organizadores. Es el segundo año que estamos en esto y aunque ustedes están acá, ustedes saben, pero el trabajo que ha hecho el ICT Parliament callado tremendamente grande por el grupo asesor que ellos tienen es sencillamente ejemplar. El trabajo hecho por el reporte del World Parliament del 2008 nos ha dado muchas guías para seguir trabajando en estos temas y especialmente en poder revisar y poder trabajar en las guías del IPU. Hemos hecho un trabajo de evaluar unos sitios de América Latina que más adelante lo van a compartir unos compañeros que hicieron el trabajo también con nosotros, pero tomo esta oportunidad para tocar temas que ustedes hablaron específicamente. El primero, acceso y conectividad, cosas que han dado mucho resultado, es el Fondo Nacional de Telecomunicaciones y más que todo les pongo a los miembros electos por voto popular, ¿por qué en los países en vías de desarrollo tenemos impuestos a la importación de tecnología? Yo creo que eso es un reto, especialmente para los miembros de los poderes legislativos, porque eso es una gran barrera para nuestros países que no tienen acceso a tecnología. Ustedes, miembros electos, no representan a solo sus ciudadanos en el país de origen, sino que también representan una comunidad mundial. Entonces, el trabajo para sus funcionarios en los sistemas de tecnología de sus países tiene que ver con la próxima generación, donde ustedes van a poder estar más cerca con sus ciudadanos, y tiene que ver con el acceso celular interno al país y el acceso vía Internet para sus ciudadanos que están fuera. No quiero extenderme mucho, pero sí les quiero hacer un reto a ustedes para que en el próximo año, cuando esta reunión sea, quisiéramos ver, los que estamos en el lado no directo de los poderes legislativos, pero sí observando mucho de esto, que todos los miembros electos que están ahora presentes vengan con sus funcionarios de tecnología de la información, porque tenemos que pasar de que los funcionarios de tecnología e información están en una esquina y los legisladores están en otra. Creemos que es importante para ellos, para subirles su rango dentro del Poder Legislativo, que ellos participen en estas reuniones, en estos meetings, porque la cantidad de información que ponen ustedes, los miembros de la mesa, para los que estamos acá, es extraordinariamente grande. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Merci, Président. Je me présente d'abord, Shafik Rachadi, député membre du bureau du Parlement marocain. Donc, effectivement, nous avons bien suivi cette première séance ce matin, qui va être suivie l'après-midi et demain encore par des sessions parallèles. Mais j'aimerais bien revenir, Président, sur une chose très importante. Et je crois que ça a été très bien souligné et soulevé par Madame Manguela. qui a mis vraiment l'accent sur cette fracture numérique entre pays. Effectivement, les objectifs de la conférence sont très bien clairs, c'est-à-dire le développement de la base existante, la discussion des conclusions du rapport mondial de 2008, l'échange des vues, apprendre et analyser les bonnes pratiques et construire des réseaux. Effectivement, nous avons construit déjà un réseau africain. Ma question est très très simple. Pouvons-nous ajouter aussi c'est-à-dire comment pouvons-nous améliorer la démocratie parlementaire? Comment pourrons-nous réduire cette fraction numérique? Comment pouvons-nous assurer à notre grand peuple, qu'il soit africain ou au monde entier, un développement global et intégré dans un monde qui est transformé par la révolution numérique? Et merci.
Yes, more questions, please.
I have two questions. My name is Mohammed Ibrahim from Morocco. The first is a comment about the title of this conference. So it is about World E-Parliament. I would suggest World M-Parliament. So in order to overcome the digital gap, the internet, because taking into consideration that in Africa most people have easy access to mobile phone. My second question is, for my understanding, a serious question, because right now you identified, I'm referring to Mr. Jeffrey Griffith. So you mentioned in your slides that you identified some laggards countries which could not adopt the internet at the beginning of its first wave. The point is that we are right now moving to the second wave, when some parliaments are adopting Web 2.0. My concern, and this Web 2, is enhancing the dimension, the communication dimension, not the first dimension, which is putting information online. My question, how, and you mentioned also that we are going to work with the document of Interparliamentary Union 2000 guidelines for the content and structure of parliamentary websites. My concern is, how can these developing countries, because they have still problems adopting the first wave of the internet, let's say traditional websites, and right now we are moving into the YouTube, blogs, wikis, etc. How can these countries be helped to manage this, let's say, this technological gap? Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup. Chili, s'il vous plaît. Chili.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for this excellent conference. Young people in our country and in many countries are not voting. They're not registering for voting. They're not interested in politics. What do we do with this? How can we have a strategy to have youngsters coming into politics? And second, how do we deal with the polls where in our country always the Congress is in the lowest appreciation? So I wonder if we could work together in terms of improving, I don't know how to say that in English, but to change this status quo that it's there for quite a few years now.
Merci beaucoup. Yes, please.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je me présente, je suis Abdou Moussa, chef de service Internet de l'Assemblée nationale du Niger. Je vous remercie beaucoup pour cette initiative. Ce que j'aimerais ajouter comme commentaire, parce que c'est de là qu'il s'agit, en fait, c'est que très souvent, nos parlements respectifs sont membres de certaines organisations parlementaires qui sont supposées en fait influencer peut-être la politique au sein des parlements. C'est vrai, à ce niveau, nous avons beaucoup bénéficié des interventions de l'APF, donc l'Assemblée parlementaire de la francophonie, dont notre Parlement est membre. Et nous avons également bénéficié des contributions de partenaires bilatéraux pour développer justement l'utilisation des nouvelles technologies de l'information et de la communication. Actuellement, nous avons un réseau parlementaire chargé des questions d'éthique pour nous permettre justement de suivre au jour le jour les politiques. Cependant, on constate un relâchement au niveau politique. Et c'est à ce niveau que je lance un appel au niveau des organisations interparlementaires, notamment l'UPA, l'UIP et l'APF, pour qu'au cours de leurs sessions auxquelles nos députés respectifs prendront part, d'organiser des journées parlementaires d'information pour les sensibiliser sur l'utilité d'éthique. Parce que nous, en tant que techniciens, nous élaborons souvent des notes techniques pour informer justement ces responsables sur le bien fondé de développer ce domaine pour alléger un peu le travail parlementaire et aussi construire la mémoire du Parlement. Parce que les archives papier, maintenant, on sait qu'au fil du temps, ça risque même de prendre feu avec la chaleur qu'il y a. Or, avec la numérisation, on pourrait quand même conserver, même à des endroits différents, certains supports très intéressants, des fonds documentaires très intéressants. Ça, c'est le premier aspect. Donc, c'est une recommandation au niveau des organisations interparlementaires d'accroître la sensibilisation, de ne pas se fatiguer. Et deuxième aspect, concernant les normes documentaires, les normes, les standards documentaires. Je souhaiterais que cette conférence, au cours de ses travaux, explore un peu l'aspect d'entrepôt, c'est-à-dire une sorte de moissonneur entre, dans un premier temps, un projet pilote qui va concerner uniquement les parlements qui ont une avancée technologique assez poussée, essayer de relier certaines bases de données, notamment des bibliothèques, pour construire une sorte d'entrepôt qu'on peut interroger librement avec des standards évidemment bien étudiés et propres à cette organisation-là.
Thank you very much. Who would like to answer now these questions between us? I think we are coming to the end now. Please, 1 minute, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think we've talked a lot about system being put in place in Parliament so that Parliament will be successful. Putting systems both hard and soft, yes, is one of them. But getting people use the system you have put in place is another difficulty that most developing countries' parliaments are facing. Some members of parliament don't even check their emails. Yes. The question I want to ask, and it will go to my colleague from Rwanda, how has he been successful in getting members of parliament use the systems that he puts in place, so that it will be an eye-opener to all of us, and when we go back home, we also try it. Because putting systems and people not using would not solve the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Indeed, we are in front of a great challenge that we have to do. I don't like to add more because now we are ending the sessions, but I have some sort of questions. Having the experience of what's going on today, indeed, the cooperation between the parliamentary people in the sessions and meeting is fine. But still this information and this e-technology between the committees, I didn't hear until now that there is some plan or program or a strategy that can supply and inform the latest information according to what's going on in the global wise. Why I'm talking about this now? Because the problem of the international crisis today is going to affect everybody, every country, every firm. How we can collect this information in order to solve in a global way and to continue together just to determine a new concept for the global control which is missing today. This is need a new legislation. This is need a lot of people to put their experience on it in order to have a new idea, just to have a clear vision of what's going to be done in the near future and what's going to be effected as a new legislation to be thinking about. I believe that today we have this challenge today because we talk about the international market, the global market, but we didn't talk about the global control which is missing today. And this is need a new legislation which has to be done in the near future. Mr. President, the sustainability, who can guarantee this today? Now, the funding, the monetary is necessary, but the human resource, which has to be developed according to the latest technology, is very important. Who is going to draw this vision and control what's going on in order to give the best service ever? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Now, who likes to answer these questions in few minutes? Yes, madam.
Thank you very much. I am thanking all of those who raised these questions. Unfortunately, we cannot have solutions for everything, and just by night. We have to work together. We have to build step by step and in a continuous way. The politics touch and influence the citizens' life, and ICT should be seen just as a tool, not as an end in itself, and it can help us to reach easily those interested citizens, and I underline interested citizens, and also to be reached easily by those interested citizens. I think the time is very, very important when we communicate with our citizens and what we communicate to our citizens. Because if we communicate only post factum, so if only we inform us, it is a part, let's say, of our duty. But I strongly believe that we have to be transparent, especially during the activity work of our committees. I think it is crucially important to inform everyone interested in about the deadline we have to send some amendments to different pieces of legislation, because in this way, and only in this way, everyone interested in could participate to make a better law in each country. Also, I think the e-Parliament is a useful tool only if you have in the same time a real dialogue face to face with the citizens. We have to have conferences, we have to have seminars, we have to visit our villages, our cities, and to discuss directly with our citizens. I think the digital gap, in order to try to solve at least partly, the digital gap, we have to have the technology available and also the necessary resources. And for this we need international cooperation. And IT, and I will close with this, ICT should be in top of the agenda of any government and of any parliament, but as a useful tool to increase the democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else, who is the second, like to answer? From Rwanda.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of this session. I'll answer two questions. I'll give a comment to one question and answer the one that has been directed to me. First of all, there's one gentleman who talked of the dangers for MPs' independence with the use or extensive use of ICTs. I had raised the question in my presentation, and actually my observation is this one. The use of ICTs shouldn't be a substitute to the mission of the MP. If the MP has actually the mission of representing his constituency, that is one of the functions of the MP, this function should not be put in danger by the use of ICTs. I would rather say the opposite, that the use of ICTs should facilitate this function of the MP of representation of his constituency. In this, that it would ease the flow of information between him and or her and the constituency. Where the attention should be drawn is the overload of information. Once you gather so many information, so many pieces of information, and in the long run you find yourself overwhelmed. You don't even have the capacity to make a sound decision. So that is where you will meet a danger. You have to use your information in a sound way, in an informed way, I would say. You use that information just to facilitate your responsibility of making decisions in what regards your constituency. Delegates and representatives, actually if you are a representative, it means you have a full power that has been given to you, bestowed to you by those who have elected you. It doesn't mean that they have put you forward just to stand in their name or to be a mouthpiece for what they are telling you. So to some extent, as the gentleman said it, you will have to take your own responsibility and take the sound and adequate decision, not necessarily basing on such information, which in most cases you will find they are even contradictory to some extent. So I believe this information you are getting enhances your role of a responsible representative of the community. That's where I found the answer to this question. Without much ado, I'm going to the question that was addressed to me directly by the gentleman who was asking how successful getting members of parliaments in Rwanda to use the ICT systems. I'm telling you, it has been a very hard work. It has been a very hard work in this, that it relies on buying their ownership of the project, buying their ownership, and it is based on in-house culture and values. Then there is a time factor that is also very important. But above all, there is a political will and a champion to sell this image, to sell this idea. If I could say it more precisely, it has taken Rwanda Parliament more than 1 year before all MPs could accept to use the ICTs. And the most reluctant, mind you, are not the most, one could tend to believe that they are the the least knowledgeable in terms of, intellectual and so on. No, the most reluctant has been a university professor, a doctor who has been teaching in the university for more than 40 years. So that gentleman is the one who is still lagging behind. But I'm telling you, once you have come to convince him, I remember he's been calling me in the middle of the night to ask me where is A. He said, I have seen Z and X, but where is A on the keyboard? And in the middle of the night, I could wake up and just tell him, please look on your left-hand side, you'll find A. And he's still posing the same questions today. But he's now capable of, in the plenary, using, because we have a paperless plenary anyway. There he doesn't have any choice. But the President of the Senate gave us a certain period of 6 months, said after 6 months, no paper in the plenary. So there he cannot avoid it. If you want to ask him whether he likes it or not, he will definitely tell you that he doesn't like it. But having accepted it and made it a resolution in the plenary that after 6 months, we shall no longer use paper in the plenary, so then he's forced to know how to open his message, how to handle it, how to download it, how to send it through our intranet to someone maybe to correct it or to amend. He's forced to do it. But gently, the time factor is very important. We shall extend more in our free time. I don't like to take much of the time of the Honorable Assembly. Thank you.
The last speaker, please. Yes.
Muchas gracias. Quería responder a dos intervenciones. La primera, sobre la posibilidad o el desafío de ser delegado o ser representante. Yo decía y considero de verdad de que es el sistema político el que debe discutir y debe dar dirección a la incorporación de las tecnologías y no seguir de atrás por el empuje de las tecnologías. Y creo que uno nunca deja de ser representante, siempre se arriesga a estar más lejos o más cerca de sus electores y la próxima elección podrá medir hasta qué punto estuvo en condiciones realmente de ser un buen representante o no. Y en ese sentido creo que incorpora la posibilidad de que nos vean más y nos juzguen más si tienen mayor información. Y la información siempre es abundante y siempre es contradictoria y por lo tanto uno no deja de tomar la decisión y además el que paga el costo en última instancia personalmente también es uno, aunque a veces cuando se equivoca el costo lo pagan los ciudadanos. Y en segundo lugar, con respecto a la pregunta de Chile, me interesa destacar una cosa y sin hacer ninguna valoración con respecto al punto si es positivo o negativo, pero hace 2 años hubo una gran movilización estudiantil, si no me equivoco, donde los partidos políticos, como siempre tenemos que ver, pero yo creo que no tuvieron tanto que ver, y la movilización fue fundamentalmente a través de los fotoblogs. De una noche para la otra dejaron de subir fotos sobre bailes y sobre ese efecto narcisista de estar posando permanentemente y empezaron a discutir sobre las políticas educativas del país. Generaron una movilización que tuvo su impacto político con respecto a las decisiones que tomó el gobierno en su momento y luego obviamente decayó. Entonces, ¿cómo hacemos para que participen los jóvenes? Si lo supiera, tendría la fórmula mágica. Pero lo que sí sé es que hay que ser conscientes de cuáles son los lugares de los cuales hoy demandan. Porque en última instancia creo que los jóvenes de todas las generaciones demandan lo mismo. Pero el hecho es cuáles son las estrategias que se utilizan para comunicarse. Si no les damos un espacio verdadero de comunicación y si se comunican a través de Internet, el e-parlamento solo les dice lo que el parlamentario hace y no le permite que el parlamentario le diga su posición o pueda hacer algún tipo de fórum o de debate, efectivamente perderemos nuevamente a esa generación a la hora de participar y optarán por no involucrarse en los padrones electorales, luego generando los desafíos de una democracia que se legitima cada vez con menor cantidad de gente participando en los procesos que definen a los dirigentes políticos, lo cual ya sacamos la palabra E y nos queda nuevamente el problema central, el problema de nuestros parlamentos. Muchas gracias.
Merci beaucoup. Maintenant, Mrs. Mongella.
I just want to say, if you looked, I mean, many people have referred to the election in the United States. I remember this was the time when we had our session, the Pan-African Parliament. On the night of the 4th, people didn't sleep. They were watching the elections because of the excitement which had been created around the election in the United States. Now, how many issues would need such an excitement of all the people of the world? There are so many. And if you take the African experience, there are so many good things happening in Africa. But because we are not on the ICT highway, people only report the famine, the conflicts. We miss out. And I think with the use of ICT in parliaments, where we think this is where the debates take place and where people are represented, we might capture some of the developments. Rwanda is in East Africa, but so few people in East Africa even know what is going on. I was recently in Rwanda to represent the women of the Pan-African Parliament to congratulate Rwanda for the achievement of 57% of women in Parliament. It has never happened. But what we hear now is only that the International Court wants to drag the leaders of Rwanda. They are not talking about the achievements. They are not even talking about the achievements on creating the use of ICT in Parliament. They are not talking about the cleanliness of Rwanda. Go to Rwanda, you cannot find a piece of paper on the ground. That is not being discussed. I hope by the use of ICT, it's not only connecting the parliamentarians or promoting the work of Parliament, it will also promote the information and the experiences which have not been exposed because we are not on the information highway. This would be a beginning of putting in those developing countries into the highway in a positive way, because we can no longer, once we own this process, we might also dictate on what goes on the information highway. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Mongella, for your intervention. I agree with you. By e-Parliament, we stress on transparency. By e-Parliament, no country could declare war on another country by saying false information or propaganda. Negative things could be have not to be declared without positive things. By e-Parliament, we respect really right to information. Now it is now around 13 minutes there, and we have to bring this session to a close to resume this afternoon after lunch. We start again with a special event in this same room on Parliamentary Web TV. The event will start at 14:15 sharp, and you will see a number of 3 presenters with a lot of visuals. At 15, the genuine working sessions will start in 3 meeting rooms in the Spinelli building. You can easily find your way as we have hostesses and signposts throughout the buildings to guide you. I really enjoyed our session this morning and hope you did as well. It is a good start for the rest of the agenda. I hope to see you all after the lunch break. For lunch, you can either go to the restaurants on the Place de Luxembourg outside the EP, or, and given the weather, you may prefer this, the excellent canteen of the EP. This canteen is easy to find in the Spinelli building at the one level. Finally, at the end of the afternoon sessions, you are all cordially invited to come to the cocktail at 18 in the Yuhidi Minuhin space on the first floor of this building. Thank you all for your contributions, in particular our presenters and discussants, and I hope to see you all again this afternoon.